Hello, I'm Mike Ryan. I'm the Chief Networking Officer at PIMS, and welcome to our second season of Minutes with Mike. Now in my 33rd year at PIMS, I've had the privilege of partnering with companies both large and small, supporting their PR and marketing through customized fulfillment and distribution that delivers measurable impact on their brand perception, boosts positive affinity, and fuels their overall brand performance. And throughout my career, I've had the chance to work alongside many talented folks. This is their story. On this show, we'll sit down with some of the world's top marketing and business thought leaders to learn more about their success, how they got there, how marketing helped them achieve their goals, what strategies they used, and what inspires them. Please join me on this journey as we learn from those who are changing the way we think about business. So sit back, enjoy. You're listening to Minutes with Mike. Welcome, everybody, to the latest installment of Minutes with Mike. It is a double wonderful pleasure today because not only do we have the fabulous Heathere Evans with us today, but this is a new thing with Minutes with Mike. We're going to start doing co-hosts, right? So Samantha Romano, who works here at PIMS with me on the marketing team, was kind enough to be the uno. She's the first one that's going to try this. I'm sure we'll have a couple of problems along the way as I try to juggle that as well, but she's so awesome that I figured if we're going to do it, let's invite her. And of course, Heather, knowing you, I'm like, I know the perfect guest we can use for this. So thank you both.
Oh,
I want to jump right into this, and I've been dying to tell the story of how we met. So everybody just give me 1 minute while I go through this. So I don't remember what year it is, but you're going to be able to tell me what year it is because you had a baby that year.
yes.
But we were at an old colleague and myself used to go down to Washington, D.C. quite a bit because we had a lot of business down there. So we'd jump on Amtrak, we'd drive down, go down there. And we happened to be going to this PRSA event where they were going to be, it was an awards ceremony. The big part of the awards ceremony was at the end of the night. The showstopper was going to be, they were going to give away the award, right? So I didn't know who Heathere Evans was. And they were talking about Heathere Evans. If you haven't met her, you got to meet her. I'm like, whatever, where's the food? All right. So it's packed as you can be. And I decide I'm going to hold off on the buffet till the very end. So I go over to the buffet at the end, and there's only one person there, and it's this woman. And she's pregnant, and she's trying to juggle a drink glass and a plate. And I'm like, let me help you with that plate. Couldn't have been kinder. She was asking me who I was, what I'm doing there. I never got her name, but we had our moment for 2 minutes at this buffet. I go back to the table. I'm telling my colleague all about this great woman who I met. And he's like, well, you should got a business card. We could do business with them. And all of a sudden, literally as I'm saying this, and they're like, and we want to bring Heathere Evans up on stage. And it was her. She was the woman of the year. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the woman. That's the chick. It was unbelievable. So what year was that?
It was 2005.
So it was 20 years ago. We've been friends ever since.
Indeed.
We keep tabs on one another. So we're going to jump right into this whole world of yours, Heather. And it started out, you were born and raised in San Diego, right? You went to SD State, right?
Yep, I did. San Diego State.
And then on to, I believe, UCLA after that at some point, correct? And then you lived in Virginia or Maryland or DC.
Yep, I lived in Virginia. Yeah.
And then back to Cali. And now you're in Beverly Hills.
I am.
So did I get all that right? Did I miss any stops?
It's been quite a journey. I did make an 8-year pit stop after college in San Diego. I moved to Denver and I lived there for 8 years.
That's
and
right.
I loved it. It was amazing. And then I moved to the DC area, which is where you and I met.
Denver brings a lot of snow.
Okay.
So Heather, that's the start of your life, but like, how did it start with you with the whole PR communications thing? Like, was this a journey you started when you were a kid? Was there somebody who sort of influenced you? Did you know somebody in that world? Did you just sort of, like me, want just a job and you kind of fell into it? How did it start with you?
I'd love to say I had a master plan, but actually I studied at San Diego State communications because I thought I wanted to be in broadcast journalism. And I was just as an intern in that field for a minute, realized this is just not for me. It's just not where I want to be. So then the next several years were an exploration. I have this degree in communications. What does that mean? What else is there? Because I just had looked through this little silo, this very narrow perception of what might be possible. And what I discovered is this field is so big and broad. And I loved the whole exploration, from community relations to employee communications to, really focusing in on PR for specific kinds of industries. And I just did that whole journey, and I just found that I loved it.
You know what happens too? And you and I are simpatico with this, right? That journey continues and it changes so much, right? Like, I'm older than you, but when I started in this world, it was 2-pocket press kit folders. Remember those days? I like that mug. Way to go, girl. It was 2-pocket press kit folders, and it was all media based. Like, you were pitching to TV, radio, newspapers, and magazine. Now, our big thing is influencer marketing, right? And this is the way of the world. The influencers are setting the tone, and the influencers today are the media of yesterday.
Right, absolutely. And I just love the whole idea of what we can do with the power of words and the power of connections with people. I mean, the truth is that any business you're in, nonprofit, profit, private, public, any industry, business gets done one relationship at a time. And you know that, Mike, from years of doing what you do. It's about networking, but really, what's that about? It's about connecting. It's about building relationships. And a whole lot of that has to do with how we communicate with one another. I remember when we met, and I remember distinctly being at the buffet table and thinking to myself, what a kind, helpful person. Immediately, Mike, what you didn't share about that's from my side of the story was you were a dad yourself.
Yes.
And you had such respect for what it was to be a pregnant woman. And you were immediately just trying to be helpful, and you shared about your wife. And I just felt so seen.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, there's something really beautiful. And that creates relationships that go on for decades, maybe for a lifetime.
It's a good point. And those, I'm hearing more and more in my world now, this word community, right? And sharing things together. And, although our worlds are completely different, I'm still learning from you as we go along, just watching your posts on LinkedIn and, all the other social media pages to make ourselves better in this world, right? And that's a really nice sort of segue into where we're at now, right? Like with Pivot Consulting, right?
It's Pivot Incorporated.
Pivot Incorporated.
Yeah. Yep. And I do a ton of consulting and coaching and adult learning and development kind of programs.
Your LinkedIn profile lists you as, I'm reading it right now, professional coach, author, award-winning communications consultant, frequent speaker on habit change. And that's what I wanted to get into. Excuse me. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you pivot? Like, once you were in the communications world and you're like, I'm kind of meant for other things, right? I'm focusing on this. How did that come about? Like, tell me how that came about.
That's probably the deepest question you could ask, even though it seems like such a surface level question. But the truth is that I spent about 15 years in the PR and marketing industry. I ran my own firm. I loved it. But the other part of that whole story is just as I reflect on what happened. I mean, I began my professional life. I set out with a clear intention to be a successful executive. So I realized I have all of this to explore in the communications industry. And in my 20s, I did all of that. I finished my business communications degree. I landed a corporate job. I worked hard. And then really for the next 2 decades, it was a blur. I got promoted. I broke 6 figures. I made vice president of corporate communications at a publicly traded company by age 28. And marriage and motherhood followed. And all the while, I started a consulting firm that was all about PR and marketing. And I mentored other independent business owners. I took volunteer leadership roles. My phone rang off the hook with constant demands of my life and my career. And I was really proud of my success. I was also mind-numbingly deprived of rest. And I was super stressed. And I believed that I was doing what successful people did. So it really wasn't until my 40s that I pivoted and that I rebranded my organization and that I started looking at communication, not just as this outward thing that we help people do and stakeholder groups do, but actually something that is about how we communicate on the inside. So I went through this whole thing in my 40s. It was actually a health crisis. I got a phone call. It was on Valentine's Day, and it was from my doctor saying, "You have breast cancer." And I had a 7 and a 12-year-old at that time. I was absolutely shocked. I'd lived a healthy life. I don't have any family history, but that call and the journey to being totally cancer free, because I'm now at 12 years.
Amazing.
Thank you. Western medicine considers 10 completely cured. So I'm well past that. But the journey itself was really about recognizing that I was not leading my life. I was being led by my life. And so that phone call challenged me, like to the very core. It reshaped my definition of leadership. And what I learned in terms of just my own deep personal journey was revelatory. So who knew that beyond all this external success, how I was doing in my inner life was largely being ignored. So I felt overwhelmed and busy all the time. No matter how hard I worked, I rarely felt successful in that sense, even though all the external markers were there. Time management strategies didn't seem to last for long. The same issues and problems just sort of persisted year after year. And I was just near burnout chronically. And I told myself that things would get better. They'd be different on the other side of this project or that thing, right? Or this conference. But the truth is, your well-being can't be ignored. And that's really what I discovered. And when I discovered it, it was like, dun, da, da, da. I went to grad school. I studied psychology, human development, consciousness, what is available to us in terms of the way that we communicate in the inner world and how that can open up your immune system to even the possibility of entertaining a disease state of any kind. So I just found that fascinating. And it all has to do with communication and leadership.
You touched upon two things that I just wanted to quickly go over. The first one was, you had mentioned that you were burned out, or you were working to burn out. And the reason, and I've heard you speak about this, the reason is because that's what you do, right? Like, you're entrusted to this business, you have raised through the ranks, not because you're lazy and just sit around, but because you're a hustler. So throw more hours at it, right? Maybe miss a mom thing here and there and do this instead. And it takes a lot of inner strength to be able to not only realize that, but to change, which is exactly what you did, the way that you do your life, right? Change the way that you go about your business and the raising your children and just living your life. Everything changes. The second thing was, I remember your health scare, and thank God everything's going, knock wood, great there. I remember when you were going through that, and I was blown away because not only were you, as you were going through it, but you were so centered, or I'll say appeared centered, right? Because who knows what you're dealing with in your own head, but you came across like you were so centered on how you were going to fight this fight and where it was going to lead to, that you actually shared the journey as it was unfolding, right? And to those of us sort of on the other end listening and watching this, that comes across, right? That comes across as strength. That comes across to the people that are also fighting that fight that might not have the strength or ability to share that aloud. So I'm sure that for every 100 people that have thanked you, as I am now, there's 200 that heard you, listened to your message, saw you speaking it, and were like, thank God for this woman. So it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Maybe it's just the communicator in me. Maybe it was just how I survived and was processing constantly, right? But the cool thing about all of that is now I teach on this topic, this whole idea of leadership actually beginning from the inside out. And, I think that journey is one I never would have chosen. Like I said, I didn't have a master plan. Life sends us, in a sense, invitations. And that's what I call them. They're just invitations. They're invitations to step up in different ways, to take this uncharted path. They're not always ones that we would want or ever want again, or would ever send to a friend. But they can be stepping stones to something greater.
Heather, I wanted to talk to you about this habit change expertise, right? If anybody needs a change of habit, it's Mike Ryan. So I'm coming to you as a mentor and a coach, but we'll talk about that in a second. Coaching somebody is teaching is one thing, right? And you can teach from a position of strength, knowing your topic, knowing how the best way to do things. You could probably teach an array of different things from motherhood to communications to everything you do, right? Coaching's a whole nother thing, right? Because what you have to do first and foremost is you build trust, right? You build trust with the person who you're looking to coach so that the things that you're saying, and here's where I go wrong, right? The things that you're saying, which sometimes it's a little tough love, right? You could talk to that a little bit, doesn't hit you like a bag of bricks, right? Like you're understanding, you're looking at the entire journey and the outcome as well versus just oh my gosh, you said that, I say a lot of ahs and ums when I talk. What the hell does that mean? Talk to me about that, like settling in that coaching world. Like, obviously that sounds like a big part of it too. Like, how does that work with the people that you work with?
Well, when you enter into a coaching relationship with someone, it's really about identifying what their goals are. That's the magic of coaching, is that it's client driven. So I work with a number of different kinds of executives, managers, professionals at different levels. Sometimes even just, personally, someone will say, I'd like you to coach me because I'm at this place and I'd like to be over there. And I don't know what's getting in the way. And, the recent book that was the collaborative book that I published with 4 other people, including a PhD in neuroscience. And
if Samantha has sticky tape and highlighter, she was going through it, putting sticky tapes and all this other stuff. She's probably going to email you all week long.
I relate to a lot of things in this book, and I didn't even read it cover to cover yet. It's definitely, I will continue to read, but I'll get there.
Oh, I love that.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Heather. Keep going.
Not at all. So
I killed your train of thought. You're talking about settling in and coaching.
Yeah. So the truth is that no matter what the goal is that the person I'm entering into a coaching conversation has, it's all about habits. And here's what I mean by that. Even our habituated patterns of thinking are habits. They're just repeated thoughts that keep coming up that actually become beliefs. But they're only become beliefs because they've been thought many times. Sometimes it comes from our conditioning, our families of origin, our communities, ideas that we took on and decided to think enough that they became strongly held values. But it's really very interesting that all of successful people actually just have one thing in common. They have successful habits. And so if there's any gap between where you are and where you want to be, that goal, it is literally a series of steps of habits of some kind, whether they're in your own inner world, like the habit of the inner critic can be a saboteur, or in the outer world. What are the things that, are not really working for me in terms of my career path or in terms of how I want to show up as a leader in any given situation. So that's what I find most fascinating. But here's the link, Mike. Thoughts and beliefs are a language-based system. They are the way that we communicate inside. So for me, when I recognized all of this, it was like, like this is what I want to do, because I am fascinated by our largely untapped potential to be our best self and to resolve the issues in our lives. I mean, my issues in the early days were I can't get through this entrenched life of just feeling busy. And it's like, but wait a minute, is that by design? No. So it was like I was constantly a victim to this life I had kind of created, as opposed to what I call standing up in your consciousness. Really becoming a centered foundation of your intentional choice. That is self-mastery. It's self-leadership, and it's a massive communication-based system that begins inside and then is reflected in all of our conversations with our stakeholder groups, with our publics, with our bosses, with our team members, with our partners, with our children. So I literally coach around all of those things. It's so interesting. I was working with client recently who is the chief operating officer of a large company. And we set goals, and they're really about his leadership and how he wants to show up with his team. And we're skill building in some areas. But this coaching session, what happened is parenting. The conversation became about parenting, about something that's just like driving him crazy. And it's his impatience with his college-age daughter. But there are leadership lessons in that. So absolutely everything can be learned from what the material is in your life. It's like life invites you to your learning with every situation, every interaction, with absolutely everyone. And that's what I love about this possibility of working in a coaching conversation, in a deep communication with someone. And you're right, it doesn't mean I show up as your best friend. That's not my job. And we set an agreement when I enter into a coaching contract with someone, we set an agreement, like that's not my job. My job isn't to be your friend, it's to be your coach. And that's an important distinction. Any good coach will really have recognized that.
I was going to say something.
Dying to jump in.
I am, because now I'll be backtracking a little bit, but it's because the one full chapter that I did read was chapter 7 on the growth mindset. And in my life, I feel like I'm always the person preaching to everyone about their small habits. I grew up with my grandmother telling me if my bed wasn't made, I would have a bad day. And now that's a habit that I'll never lose. I mean, that's a little bit more of like, she was superstitious about everything, but those small habits. So I'm the person in everyone's life around me preaching about these small habits. And then I stumble upon this and I'm like, this is everything I always say. And then, hold on now, I'm going to lose it. Oh, the part, declutter your space, messy environments. That is something that I believe so strongly in. And I always just thought that was me in my own head. And I'm reading this chapter and I'm like, wait, that's a real thing. And I love that. Because I feel like it changes everything, decluttering your mind and your actual space.
Yeah.
I loved that.
It's so powerful, Samantha. And I love that you brought that up because there is real science behind it. You know, there's this idea that maybe that's woo, but there's actual science.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And the reason is that we live in an energy universe. I mean, energy is that anyone in physics, any science field will say, yes, absolutely. You are an energy system. Everything around you has energy. So what is clutter? It's stuck energy. And when you release that, when you clean out that closet, that drawer, here's what science shows us. Every undone task, every unread book, every cluttered area that's got all this stuck energy actually siphons off a little bit of your biophysical energy on a given day. So let's say you wake up in the morning, you've got 100% biophysical energy, but the unread book, the unclean closet, the undone this, the commitment you made to yourself, but you never followed through, actually immediately you are drained. Your energy. So now maybe you're walking around on 80% of your biophysical energy that's available to you. And we all know this when you clean the closet out or the drawer, or finish the book or declutter something, you feel a little better. There's
You do.
Right?
Yes, for
that
sure.
Was you reclaiming your energy system, reclaiming that energy.
Wow, I love that.
It's fascinating.
I know you do a fair amount of public speaking too. And as you were talking in my brain, I'm like, what gives people the ability to do that public speaking, right? Like if I were to walk out into my office at PIMS and there's 20 employees and they're all in the communications world, and I said, hey, I need somebody to stand up in front of 2 people and say this, most people would run into a panic, right? What's that old saying, right? People are afraid of public speaking more than they are of death. You do it really well. And I think the ability to do that comes from, obviously knowing your topic, but more so than that, believing in what you're saying, right? If you're full of shit, people are going to know you're full of shit, right? But if you're talking from a place of strength where, all you've been through and all you've done and all the science that you bring to it and the learning process, it just adds so much more to it. So talk to me a little bit about the public speaking. How did you get into that? Did it come with planning for the book, or did you sort of roll into that? And how's that going?
I was really fortunate to way early in my career. I worked for a PR and marketing firm, and the owners, it was a small, like a 20-person, 25-person team. And the owners invested in a weekend training for everyone that was public speaking training. And I was probably all of 24 years old or something like that, maybe even younger. And, those lessons never left me because I was always nervous to speak. And there was something that was said that day. And this is so interesting, what our brain actually holds on to sometimes, right? And that's why it's so important, this idea of self-awareness, because is what your brain is holding on to working for you or sabotaging you is a really important question. But what my brain held on to that day that has served me ever since was a really simple statement that the instructor said. And he almost said it in passing. You are there to contribute, not perform. And again, that was one of those moments where I just thought, oh, the nervous energy that I was experiencing when I thought I had to speak was because I was very much in a performative idea.
Yes.
You shift your perception.
Yes.
Like, wait a minute.
That changes everything.
Yes. I have something of value to contribute, whether it's an audience of 1 or 4,000. It's game changing. So for me, that's really what it is. Like, I actually am lit up by the things I talk about and the science behind them and the absolute power that we have to really shift from the acorn to the oak tree. And it already exists within us. And sometimes we just need to work with some new concepts, some new ideas. We just need to shift our perception around something or expand it. And suddenly it's a new day and it's a new me. And I just think it's profound, it's inspiring, and it fuels everything I do, whether it's a public talk. And I do train people on public speaking. It's one of the workshops I do because I've learned so much about that and what a difference it can make when you just come from your authentic self, and which is an act of leadership, frankly. That, it's become a great joy.
It's so true, but I'm positive of this next sentence. There are 2 people on this planet that don't want to be coached by you, and those are your daughters, right? No matter how hard you try, because I do that with my sons too. Like, my youngest is in college, he's studying data and analytics, and I'm like, yo, bro, that's my world. Like, ask me anything. And he's like, oh, forget it. Like, you don't understand. You're hip to this, right? But like, it's so funny how, like, you're the mother of these 2 children. You want to pass this information along, as I do with my children, but all you get is this, right? Like, I could coach everybody at PIMS. I can talk at length at panel discussions. I can talk at events. But if somebody wants me to help them with an essay they're writing, I get a lot of like eye rolls and huffs.
It's so funny, Mike. It's so true. And here's the thing. It's funny that there was a professor in grad school, Dr. Ron Holnick. And he said to me one day, I said, how does this work? Because his wife, Mary Holnick, also, both of them psychologists, both of them profoundly, intelligent, academia, science-based. I just thought, wow, that relationship, the 2 of you, like, wow, you must really be able to help one another. And he said, you know what? When something really comes up for my wife, Mary, I say to myself, does Mary want a therapist right now or her husband? And it's the same. My beautiful daughters, who are now 24 and 19, which I can hardly believe, they want a mom, not a coach.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And it's really important. And the other thing I'll just share with you, Mike, just so that maybe there's just some part of you that can feel this cellularly. They absorb more than we think.
Yes, that is true. It's funny you say that, because as I'm saying it out loud, I'm also thinking of like endless parade of friends that have been like, this, your son, he's exactly like you. And as they say that, I'm like, they don't mean looks, thank God. They mean he's responding the way I would respond, or saying what I would say. And deep inside, it kind of touches you a little bit. You're like, well, without even trying, I've succeeded, right?
Yes, I've at least given the most that I can. I mean, look, we as parents just want to know that we have contributed there too at the highest level. Talk about contribution. That's legacy. It's beyond that. It's like this is a heartfelt endeavor. It's a deeply purpose filled journey to be a parent. And we want to know that we've contributed and we've done the very best that we can. And so, yeah, in those moments where you're like, okay, I hope I didn't mess this up. I hope I didn't, the worst parts of me didn't get transferred over, right? Those the moments where you're like, oh, wow, that was really amazing. Look how grown they are. You think to yourself, okay, I can take a little breath, like, you know what? I've done well.
I know, it's so true. Beyond, family, right? So I'm going to ask you about people along the way that have mentored you or influenced you, right? So my quick story on that is I did an internship right out of college for a company called Ciba Geigy, which is now Novartis. My father was an accountant there, and he got me a job at the PR office. And I was like, everybody had suits. I told this on a podcast a couple weeks ago, but everybody was like Darren from Bewitched, right? They had the suits and the collars. It was amazing. I loved it. Anyway, there was a guy there named Mark Cheatham. He was probably 27, but to me, I was 22. But to me, he was the ultimate PR guy. Like, he was so good at what he did and so smart and so professional that anything he said to me, I just soaked it all up. Like, I wanted to be his friend so bad. I wanted to be in his skin so bad. Like, I just wanted to erase 20 years of my life just to be him. And I'm 58 now. I have not spoken to him in almost 40 years, but I still see his face, and I can still hear him in the back of my head going like, don't say that. Don't say this instead. Like, who in your world sort of left a lasting impression that you were like, okay, I still, years ago it happened, even if it's just somebody that just came in and out of your life real quick, but it clicked.
There are so many what I would consider angels, like, who just drop into our lives. And you said something so remarkable, and it leads to this whole thing. It's like, it could have been for just a minute. For me right now, what comes to mind, I mean, I could just list Dr. Robert Holden, who was my own coach and has written many books, and a dear friend and mentor. But I feel like going all the way back, I have a friend named Josie Rhodes. She was my high school psychology teacher. She's 83 years old.
Oh my God.
Lives in San Diego, is one of my dearest friends. And she has a story about her youth. She was at a bus stop, and she was waiting for a bus, and it was a super cold night, and she was just didn't have the right coat on and just freezing, and struck up a conversation with a woman who was there at the bus stop, just briefly. I mean, maybe 3 minutes. The bus came by. It wasn't hers, but it was for the other woman. The woman got on and left. But what happened in that exchange for those couple minutes has stayed with her entire life.
Is that amazing?
It is amazing. And so, part of what I think is so remarkable for business leaders, for entrepreneurs, for communicators, for anyone, it's not just, leadership isn't a title, it's how you show up. It's the power of how we communicate and what we say to one another, and how you never know what that moment is going to be. I mean, Josie was a mentor of mine at a time in my life. I took her class. I was 14 years old. And it was a hard time in my life. My childhood had its bumps. And she taught me in that psychology class, and just by her way of being. And, I wouldn't even say she's overly affectionate kind of person. She's a straight talker. I really liked that about her. But the way that she showed up with compassion, with directness, and with a deep caring has stayed with me to this day. And even though, there were years where it's 10 years went by, I didn't talk to Josie. We reconnected again. And many years ago now, we've just kind of found each other again. And then I've never let that relationship
awesome.
go so long without the connection. But either way, it's profound. And it's all communication and it's how business gets done, and it's how teams and cultures get formed, either in ways that are dysfunctional or, high producing. And it's the way that all of our relationships, personally and professionally, either diminish or grow.
It's true. It's very profound and well said. I want to talk about your book real quick. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about it. Tell me what went into it, and then tell me where people can get it, besides Samantha, who's living by it right now.
Super Habits for Success it's a book that combines two of my very favorite things: science, modern science, and ancient wisdom. Way back from the earliest wisdom, 5,000-year-old wisdom of our Ayurvedic science. And I think what's most profound about the book is it is 5 people coming together to look at what is habit change really. And in terms of my contribution, it's about what is the habit change that's required in the inner conversation, and then how that gets emulated out. But we have Dr. Tony Nader is a neuroscientist, PhD, MIT and Harvard trained. Dr. Keith Wallace is a lifelong professor, speaker. He's published many books on habit change. And then 2 of my fellow coaches and behavioral change experts. So we really look at human development and unpacking habit change in a way that takes into account both the mind and the body, and how our biochemistry, in addition to our mental and emotional life, really lend themselves to creating positive habits that lead to success, or self-sabotaging habits that break down relationships and break down careers and break down our own resilience.
Well, Samantha finishes with this book. I want to get a copy of that. You're unmuted. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I did. Okay, this is something I thought was so cool, never heard it before. It's the comparison from the mind to the ocean. And I love the ocean. I just feel so at peace any time I'm near an ocean, or any water really. But it says, on the surface, the ocean has waves representing the conscious mind's active thoughts. As you dive deeper, the ocean becomes calmer, akin to the subconscious mind. That's amazing. I'm never going to forget that.
Yeah, it's incredible, actually. It's a perfect analogy for consciousness, because on the surface of the ocean, in a sense, that's the surface of our mind. And it's very active, and lots of thoughts happen up there. We all know what that is. It's like waves being stirred up on the surface. But underneath the ocean, just like underneath our minds in consciousness, we have subtler and subtler levels until there's just kind of deep peace, if you will.
I love it. I love that.
And, to be able to look at ourselves this way and to recognize, oh, right. Everyone's going to nod on that, right? Like, yes, I totally get it. On the surface, I have this busy thinking mind. And there are times where I can be more peaceful and calm and centered, and being able to really access habit change from both the subconscious mind, where we're not quite aware of what's driving eating chocolate at 9 p.m., or getting immediately triggered and frustrated and having an outburst in a meeting. What's happening at the subtler levels is often not included when we look at habit change and habit change frameworks. So that's one of the things that really pulls from both modern science and human development and ancient wisdom in the mind-body connection. Really allows you to unlock habit change from a very different vantage point.
So good. And I think I told you several times this week as we were leading up to this, we were prepping and making our notes and stuff. Did I say you were going to love her?
I love her.
Told you.
Yes, you did.
Miss Evans, it's that time for what we like to call our lightning round. This is how we end our interview. Samantha, I'm going to put her on. And we've come up with a grouping of 5 or 6 questions. It's yes or no type answers. It's maybe, quick answers, whatever pops in your brain. The topic is nothing at all. It's just general knowledge, right? Here we go.
Fun stuff. Just the fun stuff. Okay, I'm going.
I love it. Let's do it.
All right, ready? Lightning round. Would you rather have the ability to time travel or be invisible?
Time travel.
Me too. Your favorite pizza topping?
Cheese.
She said that so passionately. Okay.
I gave up eating cheese this year.
Okay.
So it's a big challenge, as you could tell. I love it.
I can tell. If you could have dinner with any celebrity, who would it be and why? This is a tough one, kind of. It's a good one, but it's hard to answer fast.
I don't know why I wanted to.
If I need a minute, my brain went to three things. Madonna. I loved her as a teenager. I would absolutely love to sit across. That'd be so cool. 2, my brother-in-law, Noah Wiley. He's currently on a show called The Pit, which is doing amazing. And I love him. He's probably one of my favorite dinner companions. And then it would probably be Rumi, because Rumi, who was a Sufi poet, I think his poetry and his way of seeing the world around him and his own relationship to himself has really changed the way I experience life. It's been deeply moving and inspiring, and I think that would be fascinating.
I love that answer.
I love all of them.
But I'm still picturing you with the gloves, the gloves.
Right? And the bow made out of stockings, right? Made out of pantyhose. Come on. I don't stacked bracelets. Do you want to know the truth? To this day, right now, in a closet across the place where I am, I have
You never threw it away.
Full current Madonna outfit in case there is an opportunity.
That is so hysterical.
I'm rolling in as Madonna. 80s, baby. 80s, the whole thing.
You can pull it off. Okay. The next one is, I lost my space. Hold on. Oh, one thing you can't leave your house without.
My purse.
Yeah, I guess that's a good answer. Cannot leave the house without the entire purse.
Without saying goodbye to I can't leave the house without saying goodbye to my dog. Yeah, I mean, the truth is, even if I walked out without my purse, I cannot leave without just like softening her little head and giving her a little kiss.
Side note, I'm telling you, she doesn't have it in here, but if she had her purse in here, I'd tell Samantha to take out however many chapsticks she has, and there's no less than 5.
Wow.
5. There's no less than 10. It's a weird, I don't know, it's my safety to have. Wait, I'm sitting here right now. Why do I have 2? I don't know. I feel safe with my chapsticks and lip glosses.
Mine is dental
See?
floss.
Oh, floss is a big one. Yeah. See, that's
everywhere. My girls are gonna laugh when I tell them I got asked the question and forgot to say.
Pulled out your dental floss.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's dental floss.
If I had told you we're going to have a question where the answer requires you holding up dental floss, you'd be like, I'm not doing it.
Forget it.
Okay, last one. If you had a time machine, would you visit the past or the future? I feel like I know what your answer is going to be.
The future.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to say the past.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. Absolutely.
The
And
future.
it's a great question because it really has to do with my work, Samantha. We get stuck in the past and we lose the present moment. We get so stuck in the past and we replay old habituated patterns of thought that maybe served us for a little bit, but don't serve us at all now. And so I am far more interested in where we're going than where we got stuck before and what we did before and what will you do now?
Right. Another great answer.
Well, I want to say, hit me on your thing. Thank you very much, Samantha, for joining us. You've been wonderful. And to my dear friend, Miss Heather Evans, you were wonderful. Thank you so much. Obviously, we can get the book wherever books are sold, including Amazon. Is that where you got it, on Amazon? Yeah. On Amazon? If somebody, yes. Heather, if somebody wants to get in touch with you for public speaking or coaching or a whole host of other things, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can email me. That's probably the best at info@pivotincorporated.com. You can go to my website, pivotincorporated.com, and there's a little contact form there, and you can easily shoot me a direct message. By the way, if you have any listeners that reach out to me and say they are a fan of Minutes with Mike, I will give you a discount on coaching or workshop or any of my work. I will give you 30% off.
I love it. I'm a code.
So cool.
I love it. You're the best. Really appreciate it. And if you're smart, you jump on that offer right away. Heather Evans,
my
thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you the next time I'm out in California. We'll stay in touch for sure.
Thank you.
Bye.